Hey guys, Steve here, singledadfitdad.com. Thanks for watching. Today I want to talk about a sore subject for a lot of guys. It's man boobs, okay? This is an area that a lot of guys deal with. Actually, I read a number that somewhere between like 35 and 41% of guys between ages 35 and 45 deal with man boobs in some capacity. So I want to talk a little bit about how to get rid of them, okay? And first off, let me make a couple of notes here. One, this is not going to be an all-inclusive, comprehensive guide to getting rid of man boobs, because that's a pretty big topic, something that I'm working on actually. And also, I'm not talking about if you have a condition called Gynecomastia or Gyno. That's where you actually have a severe hormone imbalance, okay? And most of the time that's corrected through surgery. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about man boobs in the sense that you have extra body fat and extra breast tissue stored in the pec region, okay? And there are certain things you can do about it. And I've actually been getting a lot of emails lately about it saying, hey, I'm dealing with this, how do I get rid of it? So, I started creating a guide, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But it comes down to pretty much a handful of things that you really have to focus on to get rid of them, okay? So the first thing I want to talk about is hormones. Okay, hormones are going to have the biggest impact on your man boobs. So what happens is there's some kind of a minor imbalance between testosterone and estrogen when you have man boobs. So when it tips in the favor of estrogen, we start seeing excess, breast tissue or fatty tissue underneath or right above the pec muscles. So oftentimes, we have to look at how to best increase our testosterone while decreasing estrogen and making sure that we avoid things that actually switch those roles. So we want to avoid things, for example, like plastic bottles and soy, things that are going to increase estrogen, which are going to counter effect what we're trying to do when getting rid of man boobs. We also want to make sure we're doing things that are going to focus on getting the testosterone up naturally, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. Okay, so that's the first thing, is we have to get the hormones in check, and probably the best way to do it, and it's something that can be done through your physician, is actually going to go ahead and get a blood test, and they can tell you what your levels are, and you'll see, if they are low, and if they are low, then that's something you really have to address. Okay, so I want to talk about your diet first. That's going to be critical in getting rid of man boobs. All right, so we're going to focus on foods. Obviously we want to eat smart, right? So first thing is, to lose man boobs, we have to lose body fat. Okay, it's not something that we can spot reduce. You're not going to be able to do a bunch of push-ups, presses, and pec flies and lose your man boobs. It's not going to work like that. So we have to focus on losing body fat. So obviously eating a good, clean diet full of healthy foods, vegetables, fruits, nuts, all those things that we're supposed to have, the lean, meats and proteins. So common sense would dictate that you eat, good foods, but we want to focus on a couple things too, is make sure that you're not having anything hormone treated, whether it's dairy, and dairy can create some excess estrogen anyway, but nothing hormone treated. And really look at your meat products, okay? So most meats that we buy in the grocery store are pumped with all kinds of steroids and hormones, okay? It's a little more expensive, and it has a little bit of a different taste. It's kind of an acquired taste if you haven't had like grass-fed organic meat, ground beef or steak. Definitely the texture is different, looks a little funky, takes a little bit of use to, but really important if you want to really focus on dropping the man boobs. You cannot have hormone-laced foods. Okay, that's one thing really to look for, and also make sure you're avoiding foods. There are plenty of lists out there that'll show you which foods help increase testosterone and which ones help lower estrogen. But a couple that come to mind, plastic bottles, soy, flaxseed. Specifically, soy is probably the biggest one that's going to elevate your estrogen level, so you really want to avoid that as much as you can when you're trying to get that in check. So you want to have foods that naturally increase testosterone, lean meats. There are some nuts, some berries are really good for that too, blueberries, raspberries, those types of things. So diet's going to be really important. Okay, as far as the training piece of it, we're going to have to train heavy and hard. Okay, so the best response you're going to get from a testosterone increased production standpoint is lifting heavy weights for lower reps, a little bit longer of a rest, but we're really going to push those muscles. So we're going to get the weight way up and maybe drop those reps down a bit, but you're going to be focused on heavy compound movements. Compound movement is something that uses multiple joints, so we're going to be using a lot of presses, deadlifts. We're going to do squats or step ups, overhead presses, movements like kettlebell snatches or kettlebell swings, things that use a lot of different body parts, a lot of different muscles are going to get the most bang for your buck and going to have the most effect on testosterone production. So we want to make sure that's first and foremost, and then you have to have the cardio piece of it, right? So we have to lean out, right? So if your body fat, and I know a lot of skinny fat guys or thin guys that have man boobs, but you look at them and they're pretty thin, but you take their body fat and it's 20% or more. So you're never going to have a defined sculpted chest by having 20% body fat if you're dealing with man boobs specifically. So we have to get that number way down, and sometimes those man boobs are the last to go. So you may start losing fat from everywhere except your chest, but you have to keep going. So that may even mean getting down to 12, 11, 10, 9% body fat in order to see that chest. But the way to do that, obviously, is a strength training diet, but also the cardio piece, which I was just talking about. More specifically, some kind of HIIT / interval, whatever you want to call it, training where we're doing very, very intense bouts of exercise coupled with short rest periods. So the heart rate's going to be up, it's going to be down, it's going to be up, it's going to be down. Has a really, really profound effect on calorie burning, not only during the workout but after the workout. So that's going to have to work in conjunction with your strength training. So strength training, diet, and then the HIIT style training all has to be working together along with your hormones, and then keeping smart about your lifestyle, because it's so important to have your hormones balanced properly, and you're going to be really focusing on keeping your body fat in check and keeping it down. You have to really pay attention to things like getting more sleep and more rest, reducing your stress, just making better choices by drinking water instead of soda, or eliminating something that may or may not be so great for you. So it's more of making smart choices from a lifestyle standpoint, taking care of your body, taking care of your health, and that's from a mental and physical standpoint as well. So just for example, if you're stressed out of your mind and you're not sleeping well and you're constantly under this massive strain of stress, whether it's work related or your ex-wife, whatever it is, that's going to really counteract what you're trying to do when it comes to getting all these things in order. So make sure that that's a part of what you do. So anyway, I hope you found this useful. I am actually creating a very, very specific, detailed diet and exercise program designed to do one thing, and that's lose your man boobs. So if this is something that does interest you, if you're interested in getting more information about this guide, it's probably a couple weeks away from its release, but let me know in the comments if it's something that you're interested in. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch up soon.